Welcome to Heartbreak Chronicles. Eric Bennett stands in front of his office window in Boston's financial district, overlooking boats swimming on the Charles River. As founder of Bennett Investment Management, he has built an enviable reputation and fortune. At the ripe old age of 47, success means precise calculations and strategy execution for him, as it does for every portfolio he handles. His cell phone vibrated and a text message from his wife, Rachel, flashed. Don't forget Thanksgiving dinner tonight. 7 points. Your parents' house. Eric replied with an acknowledgement and then turned to his assistant Sophia. I need to leave early. It's a family Thanksgiving party tonight. Please make sure that documents from the Morgan program are sent to the legal team. It's already been arranged, Sophia replied. By the way, your daughter Lily called from Cornell and said she'd be going straight to your parents' house and didn't need you to pick her up. Eric nodded, a small smile sweeping across his usually serious face. Lily, his 20-year-old daughter, is studying economics at Cornell with her father's analytical mind and her mother's social charisma, at least until Rachel changes. 15 years of marriage has transformed from passion to some kind of more complex relationship. Rachel runs a successful art gallery and has become increasingly independent and distant over the last 2 years. Eric had attributed it to career pressures until an anonymous text message 3 months ago changed everything. She's not who you think she is. Check the bank surveillance video from the afternoon of October 15th. At first, Eric ignored the message, thinking it was a prank by a competitor. But professional habit made him investigate anyway. One of Bennett Investment Management's major clients was that very bank, and accessing the surveillance footage was a breeze. The footage clearly shows Rachel and Jacob Miller entering the bank and staying in the private client area for 40 minutes. A former college roommate of Eric's, Jacob is now one of Boston's most influential attorneys and private legal counsel to Eric's father, William Bennett. Since then, Eric has begun to notice more inconsistencies: Rachel's late-night phone calls, mysterious gallery meetings, and ever-changing passwords. He hired a private investigator, Sarah Chun, a former FBI analyst who now runs her own investigative firm. What kind of information do you need? Sarah asked during the initial meeting. Everything, Eric replied, but don't get caught. 3 weeks later, Sarah brings disturbing evidence: a relationship between Rachel and Jacob that has been going on for more than a year, hotel check-in records, encrypted text message logs, and, most shockingly, a series of inquiries about Eric's finances and multiple secret meetings with William Bennett. It's not just an affair, Sarah warned at the time. They seem to be planning something. Eric got into his Audi A8 and drove to his parents' mansion in Brookline. He pondered another anonymous text he had recently received. Ready? Thanksgiving will be fun. William and Martha Bennett's home is as impressive as ever, with lights illuminating the classic Victorian architecture. Eric's sister Audrey and her husband Thomas had arrived, and Lily was in lively conversation with her grandfather. Rachel, dressed in a sophisticated black dress, elegantly talked to her guests as if nothing had happened. To Eric's surprise, Jacob was there, standing with William, the two engrossed in conversation. They immediately stopped talking as Eric approached. Son, William extended his hand. I'm glad you made it on time. William Bennett, 72, still maintains the strong stance he had when he built Bennett's financial empire. Although officially retired, he remains in control of the family trust and important decisions. Jacob, Eric nodded in greeting, his voice calm. I didn't expect to see you here. Impromptu invitation. Jacob smiled, shaking Eric's hand. Your father insisted I attend. Dinner was served in apparent harmony. Martha recounts her recent charitable activities. Audrey shares her 2 children's accomplishments in private schools, and Rachel talks about the gallery's new exhibit. Eric watched, noting every subtle eye contact, every cryptic gesture. After dessert is served, William taps his glass, and the room quiets down. Thanksgiving is a time for family reunions, he began, and a traditional time for us to address important family matters. Eric noticed Rachel's hand intertwining with Jacob's fingers under the table, a hidden movement but clearly visible from his angle. After careful consideration, Martha and I have decided to make some significant changes to the family trust and the company's management structure, William continued. Eric, your decision-making is becoming more and more worrisome. The room was silent and all eyes turned to Eric. Several of your recent investment choices indicate that your judgment is slipping, Williams said, especially since the failure of the Meridian project could jeopardize the entire Bennett financial group. Eric sat up straight, his face expressionless. The Meridian project is on track with higher than expected yields. Not based on the numbers I've seen, William countered. Jacob has shown me some worrisome financial projections. Jacob cleared his throat. The data shows serious risks to the Meridian program that could result in millions of dollars in losses. We're removing you from the family trust, William announced, and your share will be taken over by Audrey. In the meantime, the board of directors has voted to suspend you from your position at Bennett Investment Management until a full audit is conducted. Eric looks over at Rachel, who avoids his gaze. Rachel and I discussed it, William continued. And given your recent behavior, she's concerned that you may be emotionally unstable. Yes, Rachel finally said. Eric, you've changed. Working long hours, coming home late at night, always distracted. I'm worried about your health. And Lily, William added, we decided to transfer her educational trust fund to my direct control. Lily looked at her grandfather in shock. Wait, no one has discussed this with me. It's for your own good, dear, said Martha gently. Your father is in a bad state. Eric slowly placed his napkin on the table and stood up. I understand. I should add, Rachel said, her voice suddenly cold, that I've consulted Jacob about the divorce. I can't go on like this. And the kids hate you. Audrey interjected. Lily told me how scared she is of your mood swings. I never said such a thing. Lily protested. You don't have to pretend anymore, Rachel interrupted. Your father knows the truth. Eric's gaze swept across the room, seeing a sea of disingenuous faces, except for Lily's eyes, which held confusion and concern. We want you out of the house tonight, Williams said sternly. Rachel needs space, and you have until midnight to pack. Jacob has prepared the paperwork for a temporary restraining order. Eric nodded, his expression calm. I understand. As he turned to leave, Rachel called out, Don't make this harder than it has to be, Eric. Just sign the paperwork Jacob prepared, and everything will be much simpler. Eric walked to the door and turned to face the family that had tried to destroy him. Lily, you can decide for yourself. If you want to talk to me, I'll be at the apartment on Beacon Hill. Then he walked to his car, showing no emotion. As he started the engine, a pre-programmed text message had been sent to a specific contact on his cell phone. Initiate Protocol Alpha. As Eric pulls out of the driveway of his parents' house, he sees the first reaction, the start of William's cell phone vibrating like crazy. Before he reached the freeway, his father had called 17 times, all of which went to voicemail. Eric Bennett is not the easily manipulated pawn they thought he was. In fact, he'd been planning for tonight for 6 months. In the Boston financial community, he is known for anticipating crises and developing perfect hedging strategies. And now he has just executed the most important hedging program of his life. By the time Eric arrives at his apartment in Beacon Hill, his cell phone already has over 30 missed calls from William, Rachel, Audrey, and even Jacob. The only person who didn't call was Lily. The apartment was purchased secretly 6 months ago, using a hidden offshore account that he set up years ago for a worst-case scenario. Sarah Chun had made sure the place was safe, secluded, and equipped with everything he needed. He opens his laptop and logs on to an encrypted server. The screen displays multiple streams of real-time information, surveillance cameras in William's home, location tracking for Rachel, security systems managed by Bennett Investments, and even activity logs from William and Jacob's cell phones. Protocol Alpha has been activated and all systems are functioning normally, Sarah confirmed on a secure communications channel. Thanks, Eric replied. How did they react? Exactly as expected. William almost had a heart attack. Eric opens another screen showing a series of automatically executed financial and legal transactions. Dozens of elaborate maneuvers have been completed in the past hour. 1. A 51% controlling interest in Bennett Investment Management has been transferred to a hidden holding under Eric's company. 2. The main assets of the family trust have been frozen pending a court investigation into the alleged fraud. 3. Evidence of Williams' tax evasion and improper financial practices, which Eric had secretly collected over the years, was sent to the SEC and IRS. 4. Rachel and Jacob's communications for the past 18 months, along with evidence of their conspiracy to manipulate the company's stock and misappropriation of client funds, have been submitted to law enforcement agencies. Eric poured a glass of whiskey and watched the chaos unfold on the screen. He doesn't take pleasure in it. He just makes sure that every step of the way is going according to plan. His cell phone rings, and the screen shows Lily's name. "Dad." Her voice was filled with confusion. "What happened?" "Mom and Grandpa are mad that you did something." "I'm at my apartment in Beacon Hill," Eric replied calmly. "If you want to know the truth, you can come over. The address has been sent to your phone." An hour later, Lily stood in his doorway with confusion and worry written all over her face. "Everyone is screaming and pointing fingers. Grandpa said you stole the company? Mom said you froze all the accounts." Eric led her into the apartment, pointing to the dining room table full of papers. "These are proof of what your mother and Jacob have been planning for the past 18 months. Lily flipped through the papers: bank statements, hotel receipts, surreptitious photos, legal documents. "What is it?" She pointed to a psychological evaluation report. "Your mother and Jacob plan to claim that I'm mentally unstable," Eric explains, "and that this falsified psychiatric evaluation will be used to temporarily remove me from control of the company and then permanently strip me of my rights. Tonight's dinner was a trap designed to make me lose my emotions and provide proof of their plan." "But why?" Lily asked, tears gathering in her eyes. "Money and power," Eric replied simply. "My company is now worth over $1 billion. Your grandfather wanted to take back control of it. Jacob wanted to take over. And your mother, trying to get half through the divorce." Lily picked up on his words. "So tonight, about you being removed? It's to provoke me to lose control on the spot." Lily was silent for a long time, thinking about it all. "When did you first become suspicious?" "About a year ago," Eric replied, "when your mother began to change her pattern of behavior. But the real evidence came 6 months ago." "So you've been plotting?" "This one." She looked around the command center-like apartment. "I hope I'm wrong," Eric admitted. "I've given them plenty of opportunities to show that my suspicions were wrong. But every step of the way, they confirmed my fears." Lily's phone rings, and it's Rachel. She looked hesitantly at her father. "You can answer it," Eric said, "but please put it on speaker." "Lily." Rachel's voice was filled with feigned concern. "Where are you? Are you safe?" "I'm with Daddy," Lily replied. "Oh God, get out of there. He's in danger. He just destroyed generations of our family's work. The police are looking for him." "What police?" Lily asked. "He froze all accounts. Your grandfather could lose the house. We all do." "What about your plans with Jacob?" Lily calmly asked. "About the plan to claim Dad was mentally unstable?" There was a silence on the other end of the line. "What did he tell you?" "That's all a lie, honey. He's always had paranoid delusions." "I saw the papers, Mom. Psychological assessment. Hotel receipts. Minutes of the planning meeting. All of them." There was another moment of silence, and then Rachel's voice turned icy. "Give the phone to your father." Lily looked to Eric, who shook his head. "He doesn't want to talk to you," Lily replied. "Tell him he doesn't know what he's fighting against. Your grandfather had friends in the SEC? At the FBI?" Eric finally spoke. "They've received all the evidence. Your program is over, Rachel." The phone hung up abruptly. Lily sat down and looked exhausted. "What do I do?" "That's up to you," Eric said. "You're an adult and can make your own choices. I've made sure that only you have access to your educational trust fund. Whatever you choose, your future is secure." Lily nodded, her father's trademark determination shining in her eyes. "I'm going to stay. I want to know everything." As midnight falls, Eric receives a text message from Sarah. They just found out that all the board members received full documentation about the attempted fraudulent takeover. William refused to respond after retreating to his study. Rachel has left and is on her way to Jacob's apartment. "What about tomorrow?" Lily asked, watching her father close the laptop. "Tomorrow," Eric replied. "The chess game officially begins." The early morning sunlight in Boston filtered through the windows of Eric's apartment, and Lily curled up on the bed in the guest room, still asleep, while Eric had been working for hours. His laptop screen is split into sections, displaying real-time updates of news, financial data, and security camera footage. A breaking news story caught his attention. Bennett Investment Management has a sudden leadership crisis, with founder Eric Bennett accusing board members of conspiring to commit fraud. A secure video call window opens and Sarah Chen's face appears on the screen. "Good morning, Eric. All systems remain operational and last night's operation was executed perfectly." William and Rachel's reaction? "Your father called in an emergency legal team in the middle of the night, but they found all the usual channels blocked. Bennett Investment Management's offices have been cordoned off by SEC investigators." "Where's Jacob?" The corners of Sarah's mouth turned up slightly. "He was taken in for questioning by the FBI at 4 a.m. Apparently, the evidence you provided regarding the misappropriation of client funds was enough to get them to act." Eric nodded. "Corporate shareholders, your full report has been received. Initial reactions indicate that they believe your version, especially after seeing the documents and recordings. Board members Martin and Diane have contacted you to offer their support." Their conversation was interrupted by a knock on the door. Lily, already awake and dressed, walks to the door. "Wait a minute," Eric said, checking the security cameras. The screen shows Rachel standing outside the door, looking exhausted. "It's Mom," Lily said, looking at the screen. Eric considered it for a moment. "Let her in. I want to hear what she has to say." Rachel was straight to the point as soon as she walked in the door. "You have to stop this, Eric. Do you know what you're doing? You are destroying the work of generations of this family." Eric looked at her calmly, as if he were observing a stranger. "Please sit down, Rachel." "I'm not sitting down," she snapped. "The police just took Jacob's computer and files from his apartment. They froze all my accounts. I can't even get gas." "That's because those accounts were set up with fraudulently obtained funds," Eric replied calmly. "Especially that Cayman Islands account, to which you and Jacob have transferred nearly $2 million, all from client investments." Rachel is pale. "How could you possibly?" "No, I've always known, Rachel. Starting with the first unidentified transfer. Did you think I wouldn't notice financial anomalies in my own company?" "It's a misunderstanding," she said hastily. "Jacob said it was just normal tax planning." "What about the plan to claim I'm mentally unstable? Is that part of tax planning?" Rachel's eyes turned to Lily in a sudden shift in strategy. "Honey, you don't understand how manipulative your father is. He's always like that, twisting the truth to make everyone look bad." Lily crossed her arms. "I saw the evidence, Mom. Recordings, documents, photos, even a video of you and Jacob in the Fairmont hotel room." Rachel jerked toward Eric. "You spied on me. It's illegal." "In fact," Eric replied, "when it comes to the possible misappropriation of company funds, as CEO, I have a legal duty to investigate. As for personal surveillance, I hire licensed private investigators who follow all legal procedures." Rachel's cell phone rang, and she glanced at it before quickly rejecting it. "Your father will destroy you, Eric. He has friends and influence in this city. His friends are busy protecting themselves from the investigation," Eric said, "especially those involved in his illegal activities over the past decade." Rachel takes a deep breath and tries another approach. "Anyway, what do you think you can prove? This will eventually turn into a he said, she said argument. No judge will believe that." Eric opens his laptop and plays a recording. Jacob's voice came out clearly. "Once the assessment report is completed, we can file a court order. William agrees to provoke him at Thanksgiving dinner. If Eric is out of control, we have the proof we need." Then came Rachel's voice. "The board is ready to vote in favor of a temporary takeover. Once he's declared incompetent, we can move forward with a divorce, and I can claim 100% of the assets for the cost of care." The recording continues, detailing the entire conspiracy. Rachel slumped in her chair. "This is just the beginning," Eric said. "I still have dozens of hours of recordings, hundreds of documents." Rachel's expression changed from shock to anger. "So what do you want? Money? I sign a waiver of claims." "What I want is justice," Eric replied, "for what you tried to do to me. You're going to regret this." Rachel stood up, her voice full of menace. "No one lives to do this to the Bennett family." "The former Bennett family," Eric corrected, "because legally, as of today, it no longer exists." Rachel's cell phone rang again, and this time she picked it up. She listened for a moment, her face growing pale, then wordlessly hung up. "Bad news?" Eric asked. "What did you do?" She whispered. "I'm just making sure the truth comes out," Eric replied. "The SEC has just announced a full investigation into Bennett Financial Group, focusing on Williams' offshore accounts and Jacob's management of client accounts. In the meantime, the company's board of directors has voted in favor of my continuing as CEO and suspending all employees associated with William. You'll ruin it for everyone, Rachel said. No. Eric shook his head. Only those who tried to destroy me. Rachel turned to Lily. Are you really going to take his side? Against your family? Lily looked her mother straight in the eye. You and Jacob are the ones who betrayed your family, Mom. Rachel grabbed her bag. It's not over. On the contrary, Eric replied. It's over. Your attorney will receive the divorce papers this afternoon. Considering the circumstances, I suggest you accept the terms. As Rachel angrily leaves, Eric's cell phone rings. It's William. I'm not going to take his call, Eric told Lily. He's already said what he's going to say. Now it's his turn to face the consequences. The next 2 weeks were like a carefully choreographed symphony. Every note a pre-calculated action by Eric. Every chord his blow against his betrayer. The Boston financial community was shocked by the rapid collapse of the Bennett family empire and the ensuing scandal. The SEC's investigation of Williams uncovered decades of financial misconduct, including tax evasion, money laundering, and insider trading. Jacob faces more serious charges of misappropriation of client funds, falsification of documents, and attempted fraud. Rachel, while not directly involved in financial crimes, is facing conspiracy charges and a ruined career. The shareholders and board of directors of Bennett Investment Management were quick to side with Eric, especially after seeing the exhaustive evidence he provided. The name of the company was changed to EB Strategic Investment, completely severing ties with the past. William's health deteriorated rapidly under the stress, and a week later, he was hospitalized for a minor stroke. Martha, who has always been the center of Boston's social scene, finds herself suddenly isolated and her former friends fearful of being involved in the scandal. In the apartment, Eric and Lily establish a new daily routine. She decided to take a temporary semester off from school to assist her father in rebuilding the company and taking care of family matters. A reporter from Reuters called again. Lily told Eric one morning, and they want to do a feature story on the collapse of Bennett's financial empire. Tell them I have no comment, Eric replied, eyes glued to the laptop screen, and have them contact the company's PR department. Lily sat across from her father. Grandpa's lawyers sent another settlement offer. This time they offered to drop all claims against the family trust in exchange for dropping our criminal charges against him. There's no room for discussion, Eric said. Crime must face consequences. He could go to jail, Dad. That was the result of his own choices. Eric looked up. A possibility he should have considered when he decided to try and destroy me. Lily hesitated. Mom contacted me yesterday. She said she was willing to accept any terms of the divorce and just wanted a chance to explain. Explain what? Eric's voice remained calm, but with a hint of edge. The reason she betrayed me with my most trusted friend? Her reason for agreeing to a plan to institutionalize me? Or is it her motive for trying to steal her love for me from my daughter? She said she was forced to, Lily said softly. She said Grandpa threatened to reveal some of her family's secrets if she didn't cooperate. Eric shook his head. Another lie. Sarah found evidence that she was an active participant and even in some ways the initiator of the program. I'm just telling you what she said. I understand. Eric's expression softened. You want to believe your mother has a reasonable explanation, but sometimes people just act out of greed and selfishness for no deeper reason. Lily nodded, though she didn't look entirely convinced. The police are going to Jacob's office today to take evidence. The news said he could face up to 20 years in prison. It's well-deserved for lawyers who betray their clients' trust, Eric replied. Their conversation was interrupted by a knock on the door. Sarah Chen stood in the doorway, a folder in her hand. I have the final report you asked for, she said, including a trace of all funds transferred to offshore accounts. The three sit around the dining room table, and Sarah unfolds a complicated chart showing the flow of money between William, Jacob, and Rachel. A total of about $700 million was transferred to these accounts, Sarah explained, pointing to the chart, mostly from client funds managed by Bennett Investments, but some of it was diverted from your personal accounts. How much have they moved? Eric asked. About $8 million, Sarah replied, mostly for luxury purchases and real estate investments. The remaining funds have been frozen pending a court decision. Eric thought for a moment. Ensure that all affected customers are compensated in full, plus reasonable interest. Even if it means you're personally liable for some of the damages? Sarah asked. Especially in that situation, Eric confirms. My reputation is built on integrity. I won't let my clients suffer because of my family's behavior. Lily looked at her father with pride. That's why the company has survived all this. Because people trust you. Sarah put away the papers. There's one more thing you should know. Rachel tried to contact several gossip magazines to sell an inside story about you. Claims you're controlling and abusive. Eric's expression hasn't changed. Any takers? No, Sarah smiled. I made sure they understood the legal ramifications of doing so and the evidence we had to contradict her story. Just then, Eric's cell phone rang with a text message from an unknown number. Check the news. He turned on the TV and tuned to a local news channel. Footage shows Jacob Miller being led out of his office, handcuffed behind his back, as FBI agents escort him to a waiting vehicle. Caption flashes, prominent attorney Jacob Miller arrested for financial fraud and misappropriation of client funds. This is just the beginning, Eric said, turning off the TV. Ensure that everyone involved in this conspiracy suffers the full legal consequences, however long it takes. That night, when Lily had gone to bed, Eric stood at the window overlooking Boston at night. His cell phone vibrated, displaying a text message from William. You won. Please stop this. We can negotiate. Eric didn't reply. With betrayal, there is no room for negotiation, only consequences. It's not about revenge, it's about justice. About making sure that those who try to destroy him never get another chance to do so. He looks out at the city lights and remembers the promises he made when he built his company all those years ago. Integrity, precision, and excellence. These principles have guided his career and now guide his response to betrayal. This battle is not over, but victory is assured. Not through anger or impulse, but through precise calculation and calm execution, as he has done in the world of investing. In the fourth week after the events of Thanksgiving, the chill of winter sweeps through Boston, but Eric Bennett's life is at the center of the storm. His former family's empire is crumbling, and his careful planning is having a ripple effect far beyond expectations. Regulators in New Jersey have just joined the investigation into Bennett Financial Group, Sarah reported at the regular briefing, and they found similar violations in Williams' business there. Eric nodded, skimming the report on his desk. That means 7 states and 3 federal agencies are now investigating. And internationally, Sarah added, the Swiss authorities have frozen their accounts in Geneva. The Cayman Islands are also cooperating. EB Strategic Investments' temporary conference room in Eric's apartment is now the command center. Lily is responsible for documenting every development while learning how the family business works. Audrey sent a message, Lily said. She claims to know nothing about Grandpa's activities and wants to reconcile with you. What's the status of her assets? Eric asked, not looking up. Sarah pulled up a report. She and Thomas quickly moved the funds after William was investigated. It looks like they're trying to cut ties and protect themselves. Have the legal team investigate the extent of her involvement, Eric decided. And if the evidence shows she had knowledge, add her to the list of lawsuits. If not, let her suffer the rejection of her social circle alone. Cruel but fair, Sarah commented. Eric's eyes got sharp. It's not about cruelty, Sarah. It's about holding everyone accountable for their choices. After the meeting, Lily followed her father into his home office. Dad, I've been thinking a lot about Mom. Eric sat down and gestured for his daughter to continue. I checked her finances, Lily said, uncertainty in her voice, and she is almost nothing now. The gallery was facing bankruptcy, and she was forced to move to a small apartment. Your point. Maybe it's enough? Lily offered carefully. She's lost everything. Reputation, lifestyle, friends. Eric considered it for a moment. Her situation is the result of her own choices. Not only has she betrayed me, but she's involved in a program that could cost me my freedom and dignity. I know, Lily admitted, but I was thinking, where does revenge end? This isn't revenge, Lily. This is the consequence. Every action in the world has a corresponding reaction. Your mother's choice of action was very destructive, so the reaction was just as strong. Lily nods, though not entirely convinced. I'm going to visit Grandpa today, she concluded. The hospital says he's stabilized. Eric didn't try to stop her. That's your choice. Just remember, even William Bennett in his hospital bed is a dangerous manipulator. When Lily leaves, Eric's phone rings. It's David Chun, legal counsel for EB Strategic Investment. We just received an indictment, David said directly. Rachel claims emotional abuse and financial duress. She wants to get family court intervention. Eric almost laughed. What evidence does she have? Nothing substantial, David replied. But she has found a therapist who is willing to back up her claims. The same therapist who was once prepared to declare me mentally unstable? No. The one knew the consequences and quit. This is a new therapist who doesn't seem to know the full picture. Send our evidence packet to her attorney, Eric instructed, including the recording of her discussing with Jacob how to manipulate the psychological evaluation. Let them know that if they continue this false lawsuit, we will file a defamation counterclaim. Understood, David said. Also, the SEC wants you to testify tomorrow. They're building a case against Jacob. Eric agreed and ended the call. He walked over to the window and watched as snowflakes began to fall. Winter is coming, but it's only the beginning of the cold for those who betrayed him. Meanwhile, at Massachusetts General Hospital, Lily stands by her grandfather's bed. William Bennett looked 20 years older than his actual age, with pale skin and weak breathing. I didn't think you'd come, William said weakly. I wanted to see for myself how you were doing. Lily replied, not moving closer. Does your father know you're here? Yes, he respects my decision. William tried to sit up. Lily, you have to help me convince him. This has become too much. I could go to jail. For the crime you committed, Lily replied calmly. It's business behavior. Everyone does it. Stealing? Fraud? Conspiring to accuse your own son of mental illness? Lily's voice held disbelief. This isn't normal business practice, Grandpa. William's expression became pleading. I made a terrible mistake. I admit it. But this is your family. Blood is thicker than water. Is that what you thought at Thanksgiving dinner? Lily asks back, when you tried to destroy my father? That's different, William argued. We're just trying to get him to understand his place. Lily shook her head, surprised at her grandfather's self-delusion. I just came to tell you that Dad didn't instruct me to alienate you. It's my own decision, based on your behavior. You're going to regret taking his side, William warned, his voice suddenly turning cold. The Bennett family's influence won't disappear with this setback. We have friends, connections. Those friends are now writing off their relationship with you, Lily noted. They're afraid of being caught up in your criminal activities. A flash of anger flashed in William's eyes. You're too much like your father. Cole. No, Grandpa, Lily corrected. I just learned to recognize lies. But, as she leaves the hospital, Lily notices several lawyer-looking men heading toward William's hospital room. The storm continues. Returning to her apartment, she found her father in a meeting with a group of executive team members. They're discussing a new strategy called the Phoenix Program. Lily, Eric said when he saw her. The meeting will be over soon. You went to visit William. She nodded and joined the conference table. The team members gave a brief update on their progress and then left, leaving only Eric, Lily, and Sarah. How is he? Eric asked, no emotion in his voice. Physically weak, but still highly skilled in manipulation, Lily replied. He tried to convince me that this was all a terrible misunderstanding, and then threatened that I would regret not taking his side. Eric nodded, showing no surprise. Typical William strategy. When sweet talk doesn't work, turn to threats. He said something strange, Lily continued. He said the Bennett family's influence won't go away because of this setback. It seems like he has other resources or plans. Sarah and Eric exchanged a meaningful look. We've been investigating assets he may be hiding, Sarah explains, and there are indications that there may be accounts or resources that we have yet to discover. Is this the Phoenix Program? Lily asked. In part, Eric replied. The Phoenix Program is about a complete rebuilding of not just the company, but our entire lives and identities. He opened a file and showed Lily a series of complicated charts and schedules. This is the roadmap for the next 6 months, he explained, including corporate reorganization, legal strategy, asset protection, and new business development. But the most important part is making sure William or Rachel or Jacob can never threaten us again. Lily studied the file. This plan takes into account almost every possible angle. Almost, Eric corrected. In our field, Never assume you've considered all possibilities. Always be prepared to adapt and adjust. It's like your preparation for Thanksgiving dinner, Lily commented. Eric nods. Precisely. I hope I never have to execute that plan, but I have to be ready. So now what? Now we wait, Eric replied, for our opponent's next move while we continue to move forward with our plan. The game is still in progress, although we have the advantage. That night, when Lily has gone to bed, Eric receives an encrypted message from an unknown number. Project Rome has been activated. Williams gained support. 48 hours to prepare a response. Eric contacted Sarah immediately and forwarded the message to her. Activate our emergency response. It looks like William has some cards to play that we don't know about. Understood, Sarah replied. I'll monitor it 24/7. Need to increase Lily's security. Eric considered it for a moment. Yes, but with caution. She doesn't need to feel watched. He went to the window and watched the snow fall harder and harder. Winter storms are intensifying, symbolizing the coming conflict. Eric Bennett was ready, as he always is. Eric wakes up early the next day and turns on the TV just in time to see breaking news. The legal team of financial mogul William Bennett has released a statement claiming that his son, Eric Bennett, falsified evidence and manipulated company documents. The Bennett family will file a $1 billion defamation lawsuit. The screen switches to a video showing a well-dressed lawyer standing outside the hospital next to several serious assistants. Mr. William Bennett is a respected businessman whose reputation has been maligned, the attorneys declared, and we have evidence that Mr. Eric Bennett altered company records, created false evidence, and used his position in Bennett's investment management to exact personal revenge. We will seek full compensation and justice. Lily walked into the room, rubbing her sleepy eyes. What is it? William's counterattack, Eric replied calmly, was expected. But they say they have evidence that you falsified the material? Eric smiles. Of course they say that. This is the standard strategy. Attack the credibility of the evidence. His cell phone rings, and it's David Chun. I guess you've seen the news, David said directly. We just received their lawsuit papers. It's aggressive, but it lacks substance. Use strategy B, Eric instructed, and release the second round of evidence immediately. Make sure to include certified reports of audio and video recordings. Understood. We expect a response this afternoon. It's good news that Judge Harrington was assigned to the case. She has a reputation for honesty and integrity. Eric ended the call and turned to his daughter. Get ready for today. There may be media outlets that will try to contact you. What should I say? Nothing, Eric replied. No response at all. Let our legal and PR teams handle it. Meanwhile, Sarah arrives at the apartment with an update. We confirmed the contents of the Rome plan, she reported, and William bribed several key people in the regulatory agencies in an attempt to turn the investigation toward you. He also contacted several former clients who had issues with you and encouraged them to file complaints. The list, Sarah handed over a file. 5 have been identified. We've begun collecting their communications. Eric quickly schemes the list. Somewhat unexpected. Charles Hopkins has always been a supporter of mine. As far as we know, William is offering some special incentives, Sarah explains, and Hopkins' son just got a mysterious job offer that pays over 7 figures a year. Eric nods. Contact our contacts at the SEC. Make sure they are aware of these new developments. The rest of that day was spent in intense activity. Eric was formally questioned by the SEC, detailing the misconduct he discovered. EB Strategic Investments' legal team released a second round of evidence, including expert-certified audio and video recordings, showing that William, Jacob, and Rachel conspired to frame Eric. The media went wild with the high-profile financial family civil war. The Business Channel asked experts to analyze the impact of this conflict on Boston's financial community. Social media is full of speculation and positional choices. The first major development came in the evening. The SEC issued a statement confirming that it is investigating William Bennett's possible undue influence over regulators and emphasizing the lack of substantial evidence against Eric Bennett. Round 1 went to us, Sarah concluded at their evening meeting, but William still has the resources. There are still supporters, Eric added, and we need to determine who's still on his side and why. Lily, who has been following the situation closely all day, posed the question, What if Mom decides to testify against Grandpa? She knows a lot of insider information. Eric thought for a moment. Rachel will prioritize self-preservation. If she thought it was in her interest to cooperate with the prosecution, she would have done so. Are we going to reach out to her? Sarah asked. No, Eric decided. Let her make her own decisions. Any contact from us could be interpreted as coercion or manipulation. Just as they were discussing their next move, Eric's cell phone rang. Unknown number. Bennett, he replied. Eric, said a low male voice. I'm James Sterling. Sterling is a senior official at the Boston Financial Regulatory Authority and is known for his strict ethical standards. Mr. Sterling, Eric responded, gesturing for Sarah and Lily to remain quiet. This is unexpected. I'll make it short, Sterling continued. Someone contacted your attorney on my behalf and offered to help with your legal problems. That's not me. Someone is impersonating me and may be trying to lure you into inappropriate behavior. I understand, Eric replied, and I appreciate your honesty. And another thing, Sterling added, your father tried to bribe me 10 years ago. I refused, but didn't report him. That was my mistake. I am now officially providing this information to the investigative team. After the call, Eric explained the situation to the team. This is a major twist, Sarah comments. Sterling's testimony will greatly damage William's credibility. But why now? Lily asked. Why did Sterling choose to come forward now? Conscience, Eric replied, or self-preservation. As the investigation progresses, many will begin to worry about their behavior being discovered. Later that night, Eric received another text, this time from Rachel. I need to see you. Private. It's good for both of us. Eric showed Sarah this message. Do you think it's a trap? Sarah considered it for a moment. It could be, but it could also be that she realizes William's ship is sinking and wants to strike a deal. Arrange to meet in a public place, Eric decided, with security and recording. Let her know the terms. At noon the next day, Eric sat in a secluded corner of the Boston Public Library, waiting for Rachel to arrive. Sarah and 2 security officers were in position nearby, and the library's security cameras provided additional reassurance. Rachel looks exhausted and her glow is gone. She sat down across from Eric and looked around nervously. Thank you for agreeing to meet, she spoke. What do you want, Rachel? Eric asked directly. She took a deep breath. I want to make a deal. I know all of William's secrets, all of his accounts, all of his bribes, all of his misdeeds. I'm willing to tell you all in exchange for leniency. Why now? Because he betrayed me, she said with bitterness in her voice. And when things started to go bad, both he and Jacob started dumping on me, claiming I'm the mastermind and they're just being manipulated by me. Eric looked at her with an expressionless face. What can you offer that we don't already know? Offshore accounts, Rachel said, her voice lowering. Not just the ones you've already found. There are 3 more, based in Liechtenstein, Singapore, and the small Swiss city of Bern. It totals over $300 million. Eric showed no surprise, though the number did catch his attention. And, she continued, he has a list of politicians, judges, regulators, everyone who has taken his bribes. It's his insurance policy in case someone betrays him. Where is this list? The safe, Rachel replied, is in his old house on Beacon Hill, and only he and Jacob know the combination. Eric considered it for a moment. What do you want in return? A dismissal of all legal charges against me, modest financial support, and a fresh start, preferably in another city. I need to verify your information, Eric replied. And if they are accurate, I will consider mitigating your prosecution. But there will be no complete exemption. You are still involved in the conspiracy against me. Rachel nodded, looking almost relieved. I know I made a terrible mistake, Eric. I was seduced by money and power. No, Eric corrected. You were seduced by your own greed. Don't try to glorify it. He stood up and prepared to leave. There's something else you should know, Rachel said, her voice suddenly strained. William has contacted some less-than-legal people. He talked about problem-solving and permanent solutions. I think he may be desperate to the point of danger. Eric paused, showing a hint of concern for the first time in this crisis. Do you have any proof? Nothing specific, but I heard snippets of conversations. I thought you should know. Eric nods. I'll increase security. If you hear any additional information, contact Sarah immediately. Later that night, Eric tightened security measures at the apartment and asks Lily not to go out for a while unless she is accompanied by a security officer. Sarah immediately began verifying the information Rachel had provided. "We need to get that list," Eric told Sarah. "It could be the key to turning things around." "We have the floor plan of the Beacon Hill house," Sarah responded, "but don't know the exact location of the safe or the combination." "Focus on verifying the account information," Eric instructed, "and if that part is true, we can investigate the list further." Lily, who had been listening to their conversation, asked, "Do you really believe Mom? This could be another trap." Eric turned to his daughter. "I don't trust Rachel, but I do trust her self-preservation instincts. If William does start dumping on her, she'll do anything to protect herself, including providing truthful information. What if Grandpa does hire dangerous people?" Eric's expression turned serious. "Then he has crossed an insurmountable line and will face even more serious consequences." Late at night, Sarah sent a confirmation message. "Liechtenstein account confirmed. Contains about $200 million. Other accounts are being tracked." Eric looks at the message and realizes that the battle is about to enter its most dangerous phase. William Bennett has lost almost everything, and desperate people tend to commit desperate acts. Early in the morning 2 days later, Eric stood at the window of his apartment and watched Boston shrouded in a mist. Sarah has confirmed the existence of all 3 secret accounts provided by Rachel, totaling close to $400 million, far more than initially estimated. The court has ordered the accounts frozen, David Chun informed Eric over the phone, and William's legal team is starting to fall apart. 2 senior partners have withdrawn from the case, citing client dishonesty as the reason. William's reaction? "The hospital reported a sharp deterioration in his health," David replied. "But our sources indicate it may be faked to garner sympathy or delay the legal process." Eric ended the call and turned to Lily, who was eating breakfast at the table. "What are your plans for today?" "I'd like to go to the office," she replied. "I've been working on a new investment strategy and would like to discuss it with the analytics team." Eric nods. "Make sure Mr. Brown accompanies you throughout. Brown is their chief security officer." "Dad, do you really think it's necessary?" "Yes," Eric replied simply. "At least until we can confirm that William has no more dangerous plans." Just then, Sarah enters the apartment in a hurry with a nervous look on her face. "We just intercepted a call," she said, "from Jacob from jail to an unknown contact. He mentioned acting today and making sure it gets done." Eric acted immediately. "Cancel Lily's plans to go to the office. Notify all security personnel of maximum alert. Contact the police about potential threats." Lily looks both confused and worried. "Do you think they'll actually try anything dangerous?" "I think William and Jacob have nowhere to go," Eric replied. "They are facing decades of imprisonment and total financial ruin. Desperate people will make desperate choices." They were on high alert all morning. Eric canceled all his appointments, and Sarah coordinated a security team to monitor all entrances to the building. Police have deployed additional patrol cars to patrol the neighborhood. Around noon, Eric receives a disturbing phone call. "It's the hospital. Mr. Bennett, I'm sorry to inform you that your father, William Bennett, left the hospital half an hour ago, against the advice of his doctors. We don't know where he went." Eric informed Sarah of the news immediately. "Keep the team on their toes. William may be personally involved in any program." The first major development came in the afternoon. One of Sarah's contacts at the Boston Police Department reported that 2 men with underworld backgrounds were found loitering near Eric's apartment building. The police took them in for questioning, but could only detain them temporarily for lack of concrete evidence. "It confirms Rachel's warning," Sarah said, "that William did hire someone." Eric's expression turned cold. "It's time to end this." He dialed a rarely used number. "This is Eric Bennett. It's time to implement the final agreement." The other party confirmed briefly, then hung up. "What is a final agreement?" Lily asked, gazing at her father. "An insurance measure," Eric replied. "A program I hope I never have to use." At 7 p.m., Eric received a call from David Chun. "The FBI just raided William's house on Beacon Hill," David reported, "and they found the safe and the list. More than 30 high-ranking officials, judges, and politicians were listed as recipients of bribes. An arrest warrant is in the process of being issued." "Where's William?" "There's no sign of it," David replied. But they found some disturbing stuff in the study: pictures of you and Lily, marking your daily routes and places of activity. This is seen as a direct threat. Eric's voice turned cold. Make sure every law enforcement agency knows this. After another hour, Sarah's phone rang. We have William's location, she said sharply. He just met with 3 men at an abandoned warehouse. The police are on their way to the scene. Make sure they understand the seriousness of the threat, Eric instructed. William is now completely desperate. The next few hours were spent in nervous waiting. Lily stays in a safe room with Sarah while Eric continues to coordinate the response. Late at night, the final word came. Arrest complete, Sarah reported, a note of relief in her voice. The police apprehended William and 3 hired hands at the warehouse. They found weapons and a detailed floor plan of your apartment. The FBI will charge them with planning a murder. Eric sat down and for the first time in the entire crisis showed significant mood swings. Inform Lily. The crisis is over. The following morning, the news was all over the place. Financial tycoon William Bennett had been arrested and was facing multiple felony charges, including conspiracy to commit murder. Jacob Miller was identified as a co-conspirator. Rachel has reached a plea agreement with the prosecution and will serve as a key witness. Boston's financial community was shocked at the ultimate development of this family tragedy. The media scrambled to report how this once respected family had completely collapsed. A week later, Eric and Lily were sitting in his redecorated office overlooking Boston Harbor. EB Strategic Investment has fully emerged from the past, with client confidence restored and new business thriving. They announced today that Grandpa's bail application was denied, Lily said, skimming through the news on her tablet, and that the judge considered him a flight risk and a threat to witnesses. Eric nodded. Expected. Considering the seriousness of the charges, he will probably spend the rest of his life in prison. Where's Mom? Under the plea agreement, she will serve 5 years and then be released. She has agreed never to contact us again as part of the agreement. Lily was silent for a moment. You know, I used to think you were too cruel to them. But now I realize that they intended to destroy you from the beginning. Not only your career and reputation, but maybe even your life. I just did what anyone in my position would do, Eric replied. Protect myself and the people I love. No, Lily shook her head. Most people would be blinded by their feelings or afraid to take the necessary action. You saw the threat and then eliminated it precisely and systematically. It's a gift. Eric smiles. A gift I hope you never have to use. He stood up and walked over to the window. It's time to move on. The company needs a new direction, your education needs to be completed, and our lives need to be rebuilt. Without them, Lily said. Without them, Eric confirmed. Some betrayals are too deep to forgive. 3 months later, the first rays of spring sunshine lit up the Boston skyline. Eric stands on the top floor of EB Strategic Investment's new headquarters overlooking the Charles River. The firm has been completely transformed, moving out of the shadow of the Bennett family to become one of the most respected investment management firms in the industry. The latest news is playing on TV. William Bennett has been sentenced to 25 years in prison on charges including financial fraud, conspiracy to commit murder, and bribery of public officials. Jacob Miller also received an 18-year sentence. Rachel, a key witness for the prosecution, was sentenced to 5 years with the possibility of parole after 3. It's ironic, Lily commented, walking into her father's office. They planned everything to control your company and your wealth and ended up losing everything they had. Eric turned to his daughter and smiled. It's not irony, it's cause and effect. Every choice has consequences. Lily sat down in the chair across from her father. Now 21, she has grown into a confident young woman who is completing her education while also interning at the company and learning how the family business works. The board agreed to the expansion plan, she reports, and the New York and Chicago offices will open by the end of the year. Eric nodded in approval. What about your education fund? Is everything arranged? Yes, I have decided to accept the offer of Harvard Business School. I can continue my internship here while completing my MBA. Eric's expression softened. I'm so proud of you, Lily. In the midst of all this chaos, you have shown remarkable strength and judgment. I have a good example, she replied, and then hesitated. I received a letter today from Mom. Eric's expression hasn't changed. What does she want? She said she has realized her mistake and hopes to rebuild the relationship someday. Lily carefully watched her father's reaction. She said she understood if I didn't want to respond. Eric considered it for a moment. That's your decision, Lily. You are an adult and can choose who you keep in touch with. You don't mind? I'm not going to interfere with your choices, Eric clarified. But I'm not going to have any further personal contact with Rachel. Some betrayals go beyond forgiveness. Lily nodded, understanding her father's position. I haven't decided whether to respond or not. I need time to think. There was a knock at the office door, and Sarachin walked in. Over the course of 3 months, she transitioned from private investigator to director of corporate security and became one of Eric's most trusted advisors. I'm sorry to interrupt, she said, but I thought you should know that Audrey just released a statement on social media claiming that she and Thomas are innocent victims of William's plan and would like to reconcile with you. Eric laughed softly. Now she wants to reconcile? After William and Jacob were convicted? After she publicly sided with them at Thanksgiving dinner? She claims to have been misled, Sarah continues, saying she never knew the truth. Response? Lily asked. Eric thought for a moment. No response. Let her statement disappear into the news cycle on its own. We've moved on. Sarah nodded, then added, oh, and one more thing. William's attorney contacted us and said he'd be willing to reveal more information about the secret account in exchange for your support in reducing his sentence. I guess he realizes the harsh realities of prison now, Eric commented, and tells his lawyer I'm not interested. Let him live with the consequences of his own creation. After Sarah left, Lily turned to her father. What if William does have more hidden funds? That could be millions of dollars. Maybe, Eric admitted, but some things are more important than money. Principles, integrity, consequences. He stood up and walked toward the window. We have rebuilt something better than what they tried to take away. The value of the company has doubled. Our reputation is stronger than ever. Most importantly, we did all of this without compromising our values. Lily joined her father at the window. You know, when you left at Thanksgiving dinner, I was scared. I thought they had won. It looks that way on the surface, Eric admits. But the real power is in preparation and patience. I spent 6 months preparing for that moment and hopefully never had to implement that plan. But you're still prepared, Lily notes. Always be prepared, Lily. That's the most important advice I can give you. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the city unfold beneath them. Boston has awakened from the cold of winter and new life is blooming in the parks and streets. We have the board dinner tonight, Eric concluded, and the new investors want to meet you. Because I'm Bennett's heir? Lily asked, a hint of bitterness in her tone. No, Eric corrected. Because you are who you are, a smart, strong young woman, and they see your value. Just like me. As they left the office to prepare dinner, Eric received a text message from a number he hadn't contacted in a long time. Today's verdict is just but heartbreaking. I'm sorry for my choice. I hope you'll forgive me someday. R. Eric read the message for a moment, then deleted it. Some betrayals are too deep to be repaired by a simple apology, not out of anger or vengeance, but because of one simple fact. Once trust is completely broken, it can't really be rebuilt. But the road ahead is bright. Eric has more than survived, he has thrived. His company is stronger, his relationships are more authentic, and his future is more secure. This is not a victory for revenge, but for justice and clear principles. As the spring sun shines on Boston and his rebuilt life and career, Eric Bennett can finally move on, not as a victim, not as an avenger, but as a man who has been through the worst and come out stronger. That's the end of today's story. For more captivating tales, hit subscribe and never miss an episode.